We're going to keep you guys in the loop on the latest Broncos coaching search because it is an absolute roller coaster. So if you want to get in the loop on every single nook and cranny detail for who the 20th head coach in Denver Broncos history will be, subscribe and keep it right here. We've got more twists and turns when it comes to the Sean Payton rumors to go over on today's show. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports, and it's a roller coaster. It really is. At one point, we were told Jim Harbaugh is the favorite, and then Jim Harbaugh backs out really quickly, and then it's Sean Payton the favorite, and then it's Sean Payton the Broncos lining up, and now we've got some interesting new wrinkles to the latest Sean Payton rumors that maybe the Saints want more than just a singular first-round pick. Let's go back in time a little bit here, okay? Ari Miroff tweeting out, the date's important here, January 16th, that Sean Payton hopped on Colin Cowherd's The Herd and has spoken to Saints GM Mickey Loomis, and the trade compensation to acquire him will probably be a mid to late first-round pick. And that was fine. I think we all kind of thought that even before Sean Payton went on The Herd. So we had that, all right? And I think we were all kind of okay with proceeding with that. Give up a late first-rounder, belongs to the Niners. It could be, I don't know, 28th, 29th, 30th, heck, even the 31st overall pick. But now we've got this. Just as I was going to go to bed last night, we had an interesting report come out from Jeff Duncan at NOLA.com saying Saints GM Mickey Loomis is seeking compensation similar to what the Oakland Raiders received from Tampa Bay in exchange for Jon Gruden in 2002, with 2 first-round draft picks being the starting point. Hold up. Wait a minute. I thought it was just 1 first-round pick. And I have gone on record saying 1 late first-round pick is probably not as valuable as you might think it is. But now we're talking more than just 1 first-rounder. Is this reality, or is this a bunch of smoke screens, right? Is this the Saints trying to drive the price up? Are they trying to play some mind games with all the teams in the Sean Payton sweepstakes? Now, the Jon Gruden trade that took place 20 years ago, 21 years ago, was a first, a second, an additional first, and an additional. That's the Russell Wilson trade pretty much. 2 firsts and 2 seconds and $8 million in cash for Jon Gruden. So that's a big leap from the 28th overall pick in the draft, right? We're talking 2 firsts, 2 seconds. Now, it may not be exactly just that, right? I think that might just be a reference point, but the point remains where we were a couple of days ago as a group, right, getting ready to anoint Sean Payton the 20th head coach in Broncos history, to the Saints want way more than what we all thought. Back up for a second. We got to review this. Now, I do want to remind you guys that the Broncos reached out to the Saints, right, to request permission to interview for Sean Payton, and they went over what trade compensation would look like. And Denver, gave it a green check mark, signed off on it, proceeded knowing what it would cost. So I don't know if this is just sort of a red herring, a fake rumor to maybe drive up the price last minute, or if this is what's always been and Sean Payton was somewhat wrong. I don't see how that would be possible. I think he would know what he would get traded for when he spoke on Colin Cowherd's show. Now, speaking of the Herd, I also want to relay this here. Russell Wilson, according to Colin Cowherd, has reached out to Sean Payton. Russell Wilson has contacted Sean legally, by the way. This is the quote from Colin. Through channels, he wants Sean Payton. He needs fixing. He knows he needs fixing. Sean Payton and Russell Wilson? I mean, we've talked about that before, of maybe a connection when the Saints wanted to trade for Russ when he was in Seattle. But now we're looking at Russell Wilson recruiting Sean Payton, calling up Sean legally. No tampering. It's not the NBA. But calling him up saying, yeah, I know I was bad last year, and I know that if I'm not good this year, Denver might make history in a bad way for me and move on from me with the largest dead cap hit in NFL history, twice the previous amount, which I think belongs to Matt Ryan and the Falcons, like $48 million. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be out of the league in 3 or 4 years if next year does not go well. So please, let's talk this through. Let's figure out how I can sell myself to you as a good destination, because Sean Payton, coaches and GMs know this. You don't get a second chance very often. And when you do, you got to make the most of it because you're not going to get a third chance. And Sean Payton, while he might be the creme de la creme of these head coaching circles, circus right now and cycle, he's not going to get a third chance. And if things don't go well in Denver, he'll have that one Super Bowl, and that'll be great to ride off in the sunset with. But the next opportunity, they're going to look at it and go, oh, you flunk out in Denver, and you haven't won a Super Bowl since 2009? Sounds like the game may have passed you, Sean. We'll move on here. But I want to know this from you. Would you give up 2 first-round picks for Sean Payton? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments section below if you would give up 2 firsts for Sean Payton. So I also want to share this tweet with you guys here. Benjamin Albright, who does a great job of covering the Broncos head coaching search, replied or quote tweeted someone's question saying, is the rumor of Sean for 2 firsts true? And if so, do you believe the Broncos would be willing to make that move? And Benjamin Albright responded saying, it is true. Sean Payton and the Saints looking for 2 firsts. He also said, I do believe the Carolina price, that the Bronco price would be something more like a first and a third. So I think what Benjamin Albright was trying to say there, and sometimes we have typos in tweets, was saying that Carolina's price and Denver's price might not be the same, right? Might not be exactly the exact same trade compensation. And if it's a first and a third, doable, right? I definitely don't like the idea of giving up more picks. I'm okay with the first, but a first and a third, the third's not going to be the backbreaker here, but I would like to see, of course, as few picks go the other way as possible, especially when you look at Denver's 2023 draft capital. They've got a first rounder, and they've got 2 thirds. So, like, they can make some noise right there, and I'm okay with moving on from a first, but having only 1 pick in the first 2 days of the draft, and that probably being the 68th overall pick, that's a bit scary. Not going to lie. Like, that's not the only bullet in the chamber you want to have for a team that just won 5 games here. Now, maybe it's a future pick, all right? Looking ahead here, Denver's 2024 draft picks, if it is 2 firsts, that means no first-round pick in 2022, 2023, and 2024. That's 3 straight years without a first-rounder. That's a tough pill to swallow for a team that won 5 games in 2022. So I can come to terms with moving on from a 2023. I don't know if I can come to terms with having 3 straight years without a first-round pick. Especially with the way the Broncos played, like, that may not be a very high first-round pick. That could be another Seattle top 5 pick giving it away. So I think I can, swallow giving up a first-rounder this year. That I'm not really losing too much sleep on. But if it's 2 firsts, I don't know, Jim. I don't know. I've got more to talk about, though. Let's look at this tweet from Zach Stevens. So the Broncos interview committee for the first round of interviews consisted of Greg Penner, Condoleezza Rice, and George Payton. That will change for the second round. According to Mike Kliss from 9 News, George Payton will not be in the room. Instead, it'll be Greg Penner, Kerry Walton Penner, and Rob Walton. So, that's a little interesting. Why is the GM not in the interview room the second go around? This sounds an awful like the ownership is going to sit down with their candidates and go, all right, be honest with us. What do you think of George Payton? We don't want to ask this in front of him. Do you think this is a good GM you could work with, right? Really, how bad was the Russell Wilson trade in your eyes? So how would you fix it, right? They might start asking some questions that elicit answers that don't make George Payton look really good. And if that's the case, maybe the head coach sort of bites his tongue and is like, no, I think the Russ trade was awesome. You guys won that for sure. But doesn't want to say that in front of the GM. That's a bit awkward. So instead, it's just ownership sitting down with the candidates going, we know it was bad. We know the Hackett hire was bad. What's your opinion on how we can, save the Denver Broncos organization that we just purchased for a couple billions of dollars? I also saw this tweet that I thought was kind of interesting. Vic Lombardi tweeted out, if Sean Payton is too pricey, keep an eye on David Shaw for the Broncos head coaching gig. I know Condoleezza Rice loves him, right? There's that Stanford connection. Of course, David Shaw, the longtime Stanford head coach. Condoleezza Rice went to Stanford, part of the Stanford grad program. I don't know. She got some big connections to Palo Alto. So with that being said, we kind of enter this realm of, okay, let's look over the interview list here. 8 names. Jim Harbaugh out of the race. They have conducted 6 other interviews. Dan Quinn is on Friday. I've got a check mark next to DeMeco Ryans. That is Thursday. By the time you're watching this, they're probably doing the interview. I don't have exact time or details on it, but let's just say no Sean Payton. He doesn't like the Denver job. He doesn't want to come out of retirement for something he doesn't feel is a good second opportunity and probably his last chance at getting a head coaching job. Plan C is Dan Quinn. Plan D is Raheem Morris. Plan E is I think you just take the year off, right? I don't think you go out and even put together a team whatsoever. You just go, you know what? We're going to sit back and watch. We're going to do fantasy football this year. We're going to give that a shot. We're just going to remove ourselves from the AFC West, take a year off, and we'll try again in 2024. That's a big drop-off after Raheem Morris. I like Raheem Morris. I know he was bad with the Bucs, for sure. He was young. He was in over his head. Kind of reminds me of a current head coach the Broncos just dealt with, but that was 10 years ago. He is very well liked in LA, beloved by his players. He has grown a lot, and he can learn from those experiences. And I think the Broncos are absolutely looking for a head coach who has head coaching experience. And if Dan Quinn decides, like I said, this is not the place for me because he knows Atlanta didn't end well, and if he jumps into Denver and it's not a good mesh for him, he'll wait because you only get 2 strikes. And so then you can go to Raheem Morris, and, well, if Raheem Morris, for whatever reason, the Broncos don't like or he doesn't like the Denver Broncos, I don't know what plan E is. I don't have a good answer for you. DeMeco Ryans, Jim Caldwell, David Shaw. It's probably Jim Caldwell. I don't think he'd be, too big to turn down any job, but none of that's going to excite me whatsoever. So with that being said, I want to end the show with this question here. If it's not Sean Payton, who do you want? Dan Quinn, Raheem Morris, who is your – it's plan C, because I think plan A was either Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh, which makes plan B the other one, Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh. And plan C is probably Dan Quinn. At least that's my plan C. And plan D and E and F is we are not going to like the result of next year's Broncos-Chiefs game. That's for sure. I appreciate everyone for tuning into today's show. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and do so. The best Broncos YouTube coverage out there.